Here, how are you? Welcome to session 4. I know this is going along pretty quickly, and the whole idea of this is to give you things that you can do, that you can look at, that you can focus on, so that we can get ahead of the curve and we can all be doing more business and doing it in less time. And the topic for today is fishing versus farming. And what I've tried to do here is draw a comparison between two activities, and hopefully when you follow along you'll get to see the similarities between the activities that you do in either fishing, farming, or both. So without getting too far off the track, it is important, again, that you go through these seminars and understand that as things resonate to you, those are the things that you need to be writing down, knowing that the entire process is recorded and all the speaker's notes will be available to you, and we're here to answer your questions. So without that, we're going to get started. And hopefully this will provoke some thought and help you tie together some of the pieces that we've already been through and some of the activities and things that you're associating with those and what you're going to do in the future. So we're going to define fishing today, and we're going to define that as an action or a series of actions and activities and going about passively finding transactions that will take place within 45 days or less. Fishing, for all purposes in the mortgage business, is as if you were going to go out fishing today and go to a lake or the ocean or a river and try to fish and catch yourself either lunch or dinner. It's the action or the activity, finding transactions that will take place within 45 days. Clearly, it's not a long-term process. It's going out and finding somebody that is committed to making it happen and making it happen now. Farming, on the other hand, okay, it's the actions and activities that you do when you market and go out there and meet with people trying to secure commitments of people or individuals that will either commit to doing a transaction or refer you a transaction that's probably going to take more than 60 days and often more than 6 months or more to close. So going out there and maybe direct mail, maybe doing open houses, going out and meeting new referral partners, generating somebody who has an interest in maybe buying a house that hasn't begun starting the process and issuing them their pre-approval or their pre-qualification so they can start the process. Farming is a series of ongoing events that build over time and that may not produce instantaneous results, but it is, just like we say, preparing the fields, planting the crops, tending to them, and harvesting them down the road. So there are actions and activities that you take on an ongoing basis, and some of them can be paired to fishing, and some of them can be compared to farming. And I want to draw that distinction because you need to draw that distinction so that you remain in balance, so that some of the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis generate opportunities for you today, and that some of the things that you're doing today will generate opportunities over a long duration or over a consistent period of time. Now, most loan originators are out there fishing. Most of their actions and activities revolve around, I'm going to go out there today, I'm going to talk to somebody today, I'm going to go out and solicit a transaction or a referral. They go do that, and then they often just wait by the phone and hope that somebody calls in. And depending on who you are and depending on how you do it, that may or may not be a strategy that's generating enough business for you. But just the same as what happens when you go fishing, often waiting can be a huge waste of time, especially if the fish aren't biting. And so there may be days that you go out fishing and you find the fishing very good, and or sometimes you have to wait, and the fish start biting later, and sometimes you go out fishing and nothing happens. And if that's the case, then you need to be in a position to understand that you could go hungry that day. So you need to be aware that, again, most loan officers are fishermen. They go out there looking for the one thing that happens that day that could result in an opportunity. Now, the problem with that is that the average loan originator closes about 3 loans a month, and they work about 20 days. So using the closed loan standard by which you grade your productivity for that day, we kind of have a problem, because if that's the standard by which you grade your efforts, then most days of an originator's life, then your work is a failure, because let's face it, not many of us close 220 to 250 loans a year. So we often have days where we go to work and we don't close a loan. And the reality is that doesn't necessarily mean that day was a failure, but we don't have a way of quantifying what we're doing and understanding that the actions that we take are either designed for short-term or long-term gain. And that's what we're all about, is mixing and matching both of those. So we need to take a look at how to measure the activities that we're doing each day. And we need to seriously see how those activities translate into closed transactions. Now, we've done some of this earlier when we've talked about looking at the amount of money that we wanted to make and how many transactions we would need to close in order to get that result. And we've drawn it further out into, well, if that's how many loans I need to close, then how many applications would I need to write, and how many credit reports would I need to pull, and how many people would I need to talk to. And when we sat together, we all had a number of how many people that I need to speak to every day, so that this day will be a successful day, both in short-term and long-term approaches to the business. Because there are some days that lend themselves opportunities that would purely be regarded as fishing. And there are some days that are days that you will focus on where you fully expect that you're going to go out there and not find a new referral partner or not find a new person who wanted to pull their credit today, but it is planting the seeds, if you will, of generating that opportunity. So understand that the average person closing 3 loans a day is a result, 3 loans a month, is a result of trying to fish every day without really having regard for a long-term farming strategy and without having the pressure of success, because again, we all know that we're not going to likely close a loan every day. So it doesn't disturb us when we don't close a loan each day. In fact, some of us only need to close a loan a week to get to the numbers that we want to get to. Well, so if I don't close a loan in a day or 2 or 3, it's not a big deal because I can find somebody tomorrow. And often what happens is there's no urgency. There's no sense of creating a scoreboard by which we judge how did our activities that we engaged in that day actually turning into the result that we need to have happen. So we look at this and say success or failure cannot be a position of whether you're putting together a deal or not. Because again, none of us had a goal of closing, more units than we had days that we were going to work. Understanding that your success or failure each day needs to be determined by other types of activities. So what I want to bring out in this is success needs to be measured in conversion and cultivation. Again, fishing getting the fish on the boat, farming, planting, clearing the land, planting the crops, weeding and fertilizing and watering and tending to them until they're ready for harvest. These need to be all things that you are aware of and balanced within your activity list. So what we need to start looking at is the activities that we do each day, and how do these activities translate into closed transactions? Because, again, each day needs to have a way for it to be a successful day, both in short term and the long term for your business. Because none of us want to go to work in any given day and think that we have not accomplished anything or we weren't successful. One of the biggest frustrations that I see in loan originators is they can't really tell when they've had a good day or a bad day. Sometimes some days don't look any different than the day before, or unfortunately the day after, because they don't have a series of measurable things that they are aware of, certain small goals that they can achieve so that they can go into work, do the work that they're scheduled to do, and whether they pull credit that day or not, or whether they generate a new contact or not, or a referral partner or not, that they were able to look down and classify the day as successful. So how do we measure success, the measurables that I talk about? Again, conversion and cultivation. We have to take the activities that we do each day and see how those activities translate into closed transactions. Again, every day needs to have a way to be successful, both in the short and long term of the business. And what I've tried to do is come up with a number of different items that we can put together and say, these are the things that we're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, where they will either have an instant or a cumulative effect on us doing more business. Again, instant fishing, cumulative farming. Okay? It is something that we need to look at and say to ourselves, this is what we're doing on this ongoing basis, some of which will lead into transactions or opportunities that are going to happen right now. And others are going to be transactions or opportunities that are going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month. So what we have to start looking at is we're generating opportunities and the quality of those opportunities that we're generating. So the first part about this is coming up with a list that says to ourselves, what actions or activities do we do each day that we specifically have set up to generate business, and how do we quantify that action? In other words, what are we going to do? Who specifically are we going to call? Who are we going to talk to? What happens? And how does that translate into business? You know, a simple byproduct of fishing for business is that these lower volumes place more pressure on each transaction to close. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, when you're only closing 3 or so loans a month, there's a tremendous amount of pressure to make sure that each transaction actually closes. And because if one of them falls out for whatever reason, it represents a huge piece of your loan volume and henceforth your income. And so loan officers often put pressure on themselves. And an originator can lose opportunities and not do more business because they feel compelled to babysit each deal and engage in their deal on a daily basis to make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to go, instead of being confident in their workflow and knowing that they've done the correct job and establishing for themselves a schedule by which they will follow that loan, so they're not in that loan every day. So they're not looking every day to make sure this happens or that happens. And so that the rest of their time can be used in pursuit of prospecting for more business. Again, I can't say this enough. You don't do more business because you don't speak to enough people. If all of you were speaking to more people, you'd be doing more business. And this pressure of having just a few loans in your pipeline and feeling compelled to stay on top of every one of them every minute of the day because you can't afford for one of them to go bad is something that actually worsens your situation. It's more likely you will do something or intercede in a file where you didn't have to and make that process more of a challenge for the people involved. You may intervene or inject yourself into that process so much that people who would have been happy to refer you will no longer do so because you become the proverbial child in the backseat of the car asking, are we there yet? So understand what we have to do is these are low volumes, tend to be self-inflicted. We only do so much business because we are busy. And I know everybody's busy, but I know a lot of really broke, busy people. It's amazing how people could be so busy and not make any money. I would rather be productive. So what we're going to try to do here is we're going to look at everything that we're going to do. We're going to try to look at every actionable activity that we take. And we're going to try to make sure that we combine elements of both fishing and farming. By looking at everything that we're doing and being open to the fact that there are opportunities to both fish and farm from each thing that we're doing, then we can generate more and more opportunities for ourselves so that we can do more business so we can actually get out of our loans earlier and handle new incoming business or go out and prospect for more. Now, this is going to be a lot easier than you think to do both. And it really doesn't take a lot of additional time to look at your actions and activities and figure out how to generate some farming potential out of a fishing expedition or how to create farming possibilities or opportunities from a fishing expedition. You do both. And there is a chance that there are long-term and short-term benefits to everything you do if you just look at them and challenge yourself to find them. And so what we're going to do today is put ourselves in a position to do that. And if you don't have a way, if you have something that you're doing and you can't find a way to either turn it into a fishing expedition or a farming process, then we can help you along the way and say, here's what you could do. Here would be the spin on that. Because I'm telling you, if you can leverage one or two or three more opportunities out of each and every attempt, you're going to see more and more opportunity which will convert into more and more transactions. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So first we have to look at how do fishing and farming differ in their approach. And this is where I'm saying, how do you deal with? And remember, the fishing client is the one that we're going to close in 45 days or less, and the farming client is the one that we're going to be involved with a little longer. So let's just take a look at these and see if you can start making some connections. Well, when we're working with a realtor, fishing with a realtor would be talking to that realtor about any buyers that they had met in the past week that you might be able to help. That traditionally is what all of us do when we're working with realtors. We talk to them, and we try to solicit business, and we look for their buy-side opportunities because those are the ones that are likely the people that are coming in there who are in the position to buy right now. The other side to that coin is when you're working with a realtor and working on a plan to work with their listings. Again, we spoke a little bit about this when we were together. We'll speak about it more down the road when we do our 2 sessions working with realtors. But engaging with that realtor's listings, sending them a note, applying for the job of being their next loan originator, sending home finance guides, working on a neighbors-only open house. There's a number of activities that you can work with your realtor that's not only just looking at their buy side, but will actually help your buy side because you're engaged with that realtor working with that listing, which is what they really need help with, so that they can market that property. So understand fishing and farming. You fish working with a realtor trying to solicit their buyers. You farm with a realtor trying to find their listings. Listings take a little longer to cultivate. Obviously, they have to sell a home before they move on to their next one. The duration will be, depending on your marketplace, the traditional days on market. Now, we look at referral partners. A fishing expedition, it'd be getting a direct referral for one of your referral partners or asking for a direct referral from one of your referral partners. Again, who do you know that I need to speak with? Do you have anybody that I might want to talk to? And to that referral partner, their mindset is, I don't know of anybody that you can talk to today. The farming part of that is when you connect with that partner's database. How do you provide value to that partner? Right now, for example, this is the time of year accountants spend an awful lot of time and money getting out in front of their clients and showing them what they need to do to prepare to have their taxes filed, what documents to collect, what materials they're going to need. Well, what if in preparation for that they included something from you that offered them an annual mortgage fitness checkup and identity theft screening? While you're preparing all your information and you have all that information together, as your accountant, I don't want you paying any more money in monthly payments than you have to. Now would be a great time to see that your position in your house is what it needs to be, and if there's any room for improvement, here's how you might do it. So again, you could have a client come to you and say, hey, I'm looking for a great accountant to do my taxes. And you might be able to refer them. Or you can go to that accountant and say, if anybody comes in and asks for a mortgage, please send them to me. And that would be fishing. Farming that accountant would be working with that person in getting a supplement to whatever they were sending their clients, whether it be through snail mail or electronically, explaining the value in what you do and how you will do it for them and why it's of benefit for them to do so. Fishing, farming. Direct marketing response. You can go out on a fishing expedition and you could knock on doors and ask them, are you currently living in your forever home? And that person would say yes or no. And if they said yes, you could say, well, statistically speaking, there's a 43% chance that I can help you lower your monthly payments through the simple act of refinancing. That might give you somebody who would be willing to entertain the idea of refinancing today. The other part is connecting with your database or with your community is multiple impression responses. In other words, you drip on them. You provide value. We've talked about this. I can't call my database every day and ask them to refinance. In fact, I shouldn't be doing that more than once a year. So how do I stay in touch with them on a regular basis? And what do? We make multiple impressions and generate different responses from people because we're providing value to them on an ongoing basis. So yes, we can go direct market response. Hey, I want to refinance or I want to help you purchase your next home. And a certain percentage of the marketplace would be happy to engage you in that prospect. However, a far larger number of people would welcome the opportunity to receive value-added propositions from you on an ongoing basis. And by doing that and keeping them top-of-the-mind awareness, they may then come across mortgage transactions or referrals for you that they would have never otherwise thought of. They would have never recognized the referable opportunity to you. And the only reason that they recognize it now is because you have generated multiple impressions on that person. Now, again, phishing refinances are a classic case. If you are out there looking to do refinances, then you are in full-blown phishing mode. There's not a lot of long-term involvement in refinancing. People instantly either can or they can't refinance their current situation. Occasionally you may come across somebody that needs to wait a month or 2 or 3 to resolve a credit issue or something else. But for the most part, refinancing is almost 100% phishing. Farming is getting out there and wanting to pre-approve or pre-qualify clients. Again, getting in front of those listings or doing a bridal show or working with people on some form of first-time home buyers project or creating a path for them to go buy their next house. So just keep in mind that everything you do needs to contain both elements. And I just wanted to share a few of these so that you could see that this is how we tie some of this stuff together. Now, your pipeline. You've got fishing versus farming, okay, and fishing versus fishing and farming. In other words, you could be putting people into your pipeline, 10 new prospects a month, okay? You could be going through your pipeline and receiving 5 new prospects a month from your farming activities. So how do I mean that? I mean that you could go out and you could find 10 brand new people and you could add them into your database. And those people may or may not use you. You could generate 5 new prospects a month just because you're adding value-added propositions to your entire database, who they in turn share with you new people, because they'll share your value-added proposition with their friends or their family members. So by your search of going out there and getting these 10 new prospects, that's great. But if you keep providing value to your existing database, it's even better. If you're generating these 10 new prospects a month, you could be putting 7 to 10 loans into your pipeline. Your new people versus your existing people can generate new opportunities for you to close up to 5 loans a month that way, based upon whether or not they can actually find a house or do a deal. Because let's face it, people don't often get pre-approved for a home and find that house that day. It happens occasionally, but those people who do that will call you because they've been told to call you because they already found a property that they wanted to put a bid on. And so what happens there is they've already gone through the process. But what if you were sharing information with them, such as the first-time home buyer or the people who didn't think that they were ready to buy, such as short sale and foreclosure people, people who have recently had a short sale or a foreclosure that you've decided to incubate over time. You know they can't buy this week, this month, or this year. It may be a year, 2 or 3 before they're able to overcome that bankruptcy or that short sale or foreclosure. But by carrying them through the process, when they are ready, odds are they're going to use you. Because the compound effect of fishing versus farming, finding alternate ways of keeping in touch and expanding that awareness of who you are and what you do creates more loans in those pipelines. So the difference between these subtle things and the compounding effect of doing them is very dramatic. The little extra piece. And by the way, you're doing that as a way of marketing yourself to your referral partners. By providing their value-added propositions to your database, you're really just keeping yourself in front of those people. It's a win-win situation for everybody involved, because those people who see that value realize it's coming from you. And the more value that you provide them, the closer to the top of their mind that they are. You all know some people who you tell them something and a minute later they've completely forgot what you told them. Other people, they know you, they like you, respect you, and they are almost walking billboards for your business. They tell everybody who will listen. All this does is it helps those other people who would love to refer you and would refer you when they recognize an opportunity. It helps them recognize those opportunities, because fishing alone is fine, but fishing versus fishing plus farming is much better. So what we've got to do is we've got to come up with a plan. Okay? We've got to come up with a plan. It's really pretty simple. Is when you come up with your farming plan, because we're all pretty good at understanding what we do to fish. A farmer who's going to go out there has to do a few things. What kind of land do I have? What kind of climate am I in? Am I in the type of place where I can plant multiple crops each year, either the same one or different ones on my land? So I look around and I see what are other successful farmers farming. If you're in an area that's growing wheat and the yield is phenomenal, it may be a great idea for you to think that I should grow wheat. However, if you're growing in an area where they're growing a bunch of wheat and they can't sell or drops the price, you may want to entertain using a different crop. So you always have to weigh, what will my crop yield be? In other words, if I go out and create an activity like just stopping people on the street and asking them if they would be interested in refinancing or buying or selling a home, you're going to have a certain success rate. If you called people in your database and asked that question, statistically speaking, you would probably have a higher success rate. Why? Because these people know you. You've overcome the awareness part of it. The only thing would be is whether they would need or want to make that move. So the point is what action am I taking, and what would the result be, so that when I go out there and say, when I plant the crop, I have to think to myself, do I know what it is that I'm farming here? Do I know how to go about farming it? When I do have to harvest it, what's the projected value of that crop going to be? If I'm going to plant a specific crop, can I generate more than one product? And what do I mean by that? Well, you know, it's completely different if you're going to go out there and have a farm and you're going to grow corn. Well, it's fine to grow corn, and you could grow that corn and you could sell that corn. Or you could grow that corn and you could sell some of that corn by the roadside and then wholesale some of it to the wholesale community. Or you could grow that corn and you could do a number of things. You could make feed out of it. You could generate corn oil from it. You could do a lot of different things with that corn. And the more that you process the product and the more direct you get to the consumer, the more money you're going to make. Well, what does that mean to me? Well, again, thinking about diversification when you go out there. Sometimes you get involved in things and you're not aware that you could be actually prospecting for new business. Do you have a hobby? Do you have something that you're engaged in? Do you belong to a group of people? Does everybody know what you do? And have you shared with them what it is and why it is you do it? In other words, we know for a fact that in today's marketplace, about 35% of the total population would benefit in speaking to somebody who did mortgage loans. Because if you take the total number of people that own their own homes, a certain percentage of those would benefit from refinancing today. And if you take all the renters that you come across, and you understood that of all those renters, about 20% of those people could buy a home today within 5 miles of where they live, that after taxes would be less expensive or the same amount of money as to what they're paying in rent. If you look at those two factors, you'd understand that today about 35% of the overall marketplace, 1 out of 3 of adults over the age of 21, are in some position to benefit from talking to you today. And the challenges are we're not reaching out to them and letting them know that we can help them. So when we talk about these things, these farming plans, we have to dig a little bit and see what you're doing on purpose, and then see how we can extrapolate more business based upon the things that you're currently doing. So farming for our loans. You know, your land is the number of current referral partners that send you business right now. So again, I'm trying to draw the correlation between something that we're aware of and something that we might not be aware of. So your land is the number of current referral partners that are sending you business now. As a farmer, you could increase the amount of land. It's one way of making more money. The one way that I can increase the amount of business or the amount of money I can make as a farmer is to farm more land. As a loan originator, I can increase the number of referral partners that send business to me now. Well, your climate is really the frequency in which they refer you. In other words, you can improve your business if your existing people would send you more opportunities. Now, the point is they probably have more opportunities. You're just not either asking for them or you're not asking for them in a way that they understand could be beneficial. Again, we look at our realtors, for example. Our realtors could send us their buying opportunities. They may send only the ones that they think are ready, or they could send everyone. It's more beneficial to you if they send everyone, because there are a few that they don't think are good enough that you'd actually be able to do something for. So if you can improve the frequency of what they're doing, you will do more business. So not only can you increase the amount of land that you're farming, but if your climate is more favorable, you can get a higher yield based upon the stuff that you're planting and watching it grow. Different kinds of referral partners are different sources of business. You can't, they're all not the same. Now, the important part here is the closure rates are also different. If you have a very relaxed and laid-back realtor who refers you somebody, they may or may not be excited to use you. If it's very casual and there's no emphasis and there's no big build-up as to why they absolutely have to use you, then you're 100% on your own to turn that opportunity into a deal. If that realtor is enthusiastic, if that realtor shares an experience, if that realtor tells them that they've worked with you in the past and how well it has gone, your closure rate with that person is going to be higher. Just as it is with their listings. If a realtor doesn't know that you want to get in front of their listings, they're never going to send you a listing unless that listing person asks them point blank, hey, do you know somebody I should be able to get a mortgage from? Well, that could happen, but the point is it won't happen enough unless you ask. So different kinds of referral partners, and they have different outcomes. They have different sources of business. You will see that attorneys or close family members, those types of professionals, financial planners, accountants, will often have a much higher conversion rate. Now, they won't refer you as many people, but the people they do refer you will really more frequently use you because of the strength of that recommendation or the value that that person puts on that recommendation, that referral partner. So for different value propositions, okay, you have to understand there are different values. If everybody grew apples, okay, and that's all that you were going to grow, you could just sell apples. But you'd better think about also selling apple juice or making pies. Again, because the refined product is worth more. So we get back to the realtor part of the thing. You could just sit and wait for that referral partner to refer you who they think they should send you. And you could speak to them however frequently or infrequently that you do and be happy with the numbers that they send you. But just like with the apples, if you get in front of that referral partner more frequently and you ask for business more frequently and you show them in different ways in which they can refer you business, then you will find that you will get a larger number of better referrals. Now, the other thing is you have to do is tracking your numbers and keep score of your actions every day. Again, we've talked about this a little bit. In the 2 hours a day that you're supposed to be focused on prospecting, you really have to keep score. What am I doing and how is that translating into money? Is it generating me a credit pull today? Is it generating me just a contact today that I can follow up with the pull credit? Is it a, here's somebody that's ready to go and here's their paperwork? I don't know. There are different degrees of value based upon what you're receiving. Each transaction has a value in dollars and goodwill, and you need to collect both of those. Because, yes, you get the transaction today, and it has a value today. But the goodwill, the money down the road, is worth infinitely more. Because you get that loan today and understand that that person probably has the ability to need your services 2 or 3 or 4 more times in their lifetime. It's not likely the house that you're putting them in is the last house that they're ever going to buy. But that person also has the ability to refer you a few times a year. Now, whether you get those transactions or not is not as important as it is getting the opportunity to get in front of those transactions. Again, you need to know the full range of your portfolio here, the full spectrum of what you're able to do. And you have to become an expert to many, many people, whether it be those that you're putting in the database or those professionals that you engage as the ones that you're going to refer. Just like you want to go out and collect 9s and 10s, you want to be their 9 or 10. You want to be their go-to person, the person that they concede knows more about that business than anybody else that they know, the one that's easily recommended. Now, I know this comparison is somewhat annoying to some of you, and I know you wonder why I go through all this lengths to do this, but I try to always get these into common sense, readily identifiable situations. So it's easy for you to look and make comparisons Because if these connections were apparent to you already, you would have already done them, I'm sure. And so these aha moments, when we sit down and we actually look at it and we force ourselves to think in terms of fishing versus farming, short-term and long-term, at each and every opportunity, each and every referral partner, each and every person that we come across, I guarantee you, you're going to find things that you can do that you're not doing now that will generate more business for you. So here's the important thing. You really got to look at this and you have to implement. Okay? You need to go here and say, okay, we already know what we're doing. We're focused each day on a particular activity for prospecting. What I want you to do is everything that you're doing, whether you're going to actually physically do it this week or it's part of your overall prospecting plan, if it's something that you've got on your task list, that is something that you're doing to generate opportunities, I need you to look at them and put them into the first category you think they are and call them either fishing or farming. You need to start creating a task list of the actionable activities, because what that's going to do is going to help you see what you can be doing to both fish and farm off that activity and to better help you track a result. And it's also going to help you go in a direction as to what you may need to add or what you may need to do to improve on what you're currently doing. This is really important stuff here, and I know it sounds very simple, and many of you may just dismiss it as, yeah, this is just nonsense. But I'm telling you, this particular piece of identifying what you're doing and making sure that you're maximizing the return of your effort, make sure that you're adding that one piece, that two-piece thing. You're bringing up the opportunities to either your realtor or any of your other referral partners about why it's important to be doing this, both on the short term and the long term. Because far too often, all we do is focus on the short term, the immediate gratification. And very few people are heavily invested in the long term. And that's a shame. Because as anybody who's ever worked with builders or, with first-time home buyers will tell you, it's beautiful when you've had a transaction and you talked to a customer 6 months ago and that house closes. It just appears that closing happens out of the blue. Or somebody that you've been working with is a first-time home buyer and they've had an apartment and their lease is up in 6 or 8 months, and you get them started in the right direction, and then a couple of months before their lease expires, they're ready to go, and they go find that house, and that deal closes. So many things we can be doing can generate additional opportunities for us, and we don't often have those connections. So this particular homework assignment, and they're all important, but this particular homework assignment, don't treat it lightly. Understand that the fishing versus farming comparison is your way to maximize what you're doing, the way to spend that extra 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes that saves you hours down the road. They tell you repeatedly that getting business from a brand new customer is 8 to 10 times more expensive than it is to generate an opportunity from an existing or a past client. And yet so many of us don't do anywhere near enough to make sure that we're maximizing our value. So please, when it comes down to the homework, and it's not hard, and it won't take long, just get a sheet of paper out, draw a line down the center, put fishing on one side, farming on the other. We talk about the 3 sides of the triangle. What do I do when it comes to my realtor builder business? What do I do as it pertains to my other professional business? What do I do as it pertains to my database? How do I try to get business from them every day? Once you have that done, now it's what am I doing to develop long-term relationships and have a long-term commitment to generate ongoing business. What is that? What do I do? How do I do it? If you have holes in this system, and I'm sure we do, that's what we can work on together so that we can help you at least have one farming activity for each person. At least one. Because without balancing fishing and farming, without knowing what it is to do and when it is to do it, you're going to run into these challenges. There's no way that you're going to look at your days and understand what's been successful or not successful if you don't know for a fact that today was a farming day and I planted these crops and I know they will turn into harvestable, sellable material in this amount of time. It's okay, because nobody closes a loan today anymore. It does take 20, 30 days to close a loan. It's okay if you take in somebody and you have to maintain them for a period of time before they close. Unfortunately, our eyes aren't as open to these possibilities as they need to be. Guys, if you need help, just ask. You know, I know every one of you has not been able to turn in all the homework assignments. I know some of you may or may not have been on all the calls. I don't know how seriously you're taking the material and how it's affecting your day-to-day lives. But we're approaching, the midway point in this process, and you should already be building your book of business. You should already have your business plan coming together. We're going to talk more down the road about scheduling. We're going to talk more down the road about how to keep score. We're going to talk more down the road specifically on how you work with different types of people. None of that is going to be of help if we don't have a solid foundation and comprehension of what we can do for both short-term and long-term gain. So I'm just asking you to please take the time, do the work, and if you need help, shoot me an email, and we'll be more than happy to do what we need to do to get you caught up and get you ahead of the curve, because at the end of the day, it means nothing if this doesn't turn into more loans for you. So have yourselves a great day, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.
The organizer has